So today we're going to look at some scarves, and as usual, each of these is going to be associated with a magic power that you will possess when you are wearing it. And I can only offer you one item from each set. That's just our policy. So I hope that you find something you like and choose carefully from the 5 items that I'll offer you today. Alright? So if that sounds good to you, let's get started. So the first item I have to offer you today is this blue scarf. As you can see, it is a uniform light blue color. It has these fringes on each end. And here's what it would look like worn in this way. Of course, there's lots of other ways to wear a scarf, but I'll just put them on simply so that you can see them. And if not all of them match my outfit, I hope you'll just use your imagination about one that you could put together. Okay? So this is a solid light blue scarf, and the power associated with this scarf, it's kind of a coincidence that it matches my hair color more or less, because the power of this scarf is that you will never have to brush your hair. So I used to have a pixie cut. I'll probably go back to it at some point. And if you've ever had short hair, you know that one really, really nice thing about it is that you don't have to brush it very often, sometimes not at all, depending on your hair type. And it can be really nice just to wake up in the morning and go about your other tasks without having to worry about brushing your hair. Sometimes it's very thick and it can hurt when you're brushing through it. I always had that problem as a kid. I would almost get teary-eyed when my mom brushed my hair. And of course now I brush my own, but I have the same problem because my hair is very thick and curly, or it might be described as wavy. So, I like having it long because it allows me to experiment with more colors and style it in different ways, but I do hate brushing it, and that's one of the motives for cutting it short when I do, although I also like how that looks. So this just means that you can have hair of any length, and as long as you're wearing this scarf, you will not have to brush it at all. And because you might not always want to wear a scarf, especially if you live in a hot climate, this power is kind of a nice one for just using occasionally when the scarf is on, since that is the only time it will work. So you could just wrap this around you. You don't even have to put it like I just did. You could just have it draped around your shoulders. And as long as you are doing that, your hair will just basically brush itself. It will become untangled. It will look more or less, minus any styling, exactly how you would want it to look. Okay, so that is this first blue scarf. Now let's move on to the second one. Now, if you are wearing this rainbow scarf here, well, let me show it to you first. As you can see, it is many colored, and it also, like the blue one, has some fringes on the end like this. And let's look at the other end. So both sides are green on the end, and they both have these fringes. Okay, so I'll put this on so that you can see it. It is a bit shorter than the blue one, although I don't think that necessarily shows to you right now. And here's the ends of it. Okay, so the power associated with this scarf is that you are going to be able to tell which posts online are made by bots rather than human beings, okay? So that's going to apply to all social media posts. Basically anything online, or even if it was printed out from the internet, basically anything that was copy pasted and posted by a bot or originally composed by generative AI. Now, I do think there are some ways this might be useful in a professional capacity. That being said, there are doubters of magic, and you might have some difficulty explaining why you're so good at this, why people should trust you, how they even know that you're telling the truth about discerning between bots and not bots, although they could of course put your powers to the test if they created their own posts. And you might also have trouble explaining, or determining what amount of information to divulge. Do you always wear this scarf, which is unfortunately maybe not the most professional design, and again, it will depend where you live, whether you're willing to do that for your own comfort. So you'll be wearing this to be able to make those decisions, or to make those determinations about what is a bot, and you'll have to perhaps explain that to the people you're working for. That being said, you could find a way to use this professionally, or maybe you just want to know for your own curiosity or for your friends, or to get famous doing that as a sort of online party trick. Whatever your motives, you could make those determinations. And you could also use this, for example, if you were a teacher wanting to know which students had composed things using generative AI. However, you would run into that same problem where you'd have to maybe prove it to them on the first day using examples, and they might push back on your grades, saying that you would have had no way to tell. So I think that about covers it for this one. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, it's that, keep in mind that bots can post things that are true, they can post things that are false. So this isn't going to tell you the veracity of any facts. It's only going to tell you if something was posted by a human or not. Alright, so let's move on to the next one. So this third scarf has this really lovely pattern. It is blue and green and purple. It's a little bit wider. It sort of scrunches up. I wear it like this. But if you did want to sort of unscrunch it to better cover your nose and mouth when you're walking outside in the cold, it is very useful for that because of its size. And again, it's hard to show the length of the scarf on film like this, but this one is a bit longer than the others, and especially longer than the rainbow one, if that is a factor for you. It has fringes on the end in the same colors of the rest of the scarf, of course. Okay, so the power that is associated with this one is that you are going to be, while wearing it, a really amazing singer. You are going to have a beautiful voice, basically whatever voice you have now in terms of whether you're an alto or a soprano, etc. But you are going to keep tune perfectly, you're going to have perfect rhythm, whatever it is that you want with regard to your singing. But, and here's the big caveat, you are not going to get famous as a singer because of this scarf alone, and that's because it works only in karaoke. Okay, so this one is basically useful if you want to impress people at a bar doing karaoke and you want to just match the song perfectly. You can even throw in your own variations, but again, it's only going to work while doing karaoke, whether that's in a bar or at home watching a YouTube video with text. You'd have to experiment with what counts as karaoke. For example, if you're singing along to a song at home and you're not watching the lyrics on the screen, does that count? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. Likewise, say you're watching the lyrics on screen, but there's no sound, it's muted. That will be up to the interpretation of the item. I would suspect that this means you do need a backing track, a traditional karaoke backing track with the instruments but no voice, or with the voice volume lowered. But again, I'm not 100% sure about that. Okay, so the next scarf is going to be this solid black one. This one, unlike all the others, does not have a fringe at the end. And I apologize if you can hear any noise from outside. Okay, so as you can see, this black one does not have fringes on the end, unlike actually I think all 4 others that I will show you. It has this horizontal striped pattern, but it's difficult to see from far away, so it might just appear as a solid black scarf. I would say that it is medium length, and it's maybe a bit thin, such that, if you were to pull the fabric apart, you can see the white space between and the light coming through. So the power associated with this scarf is one that I personally would find very useful, and it is that you will not feel car sickness while wearing it. And that is true in any situation. If you were in a car doing tight loops, sharp turns, stuck in traffic with smog and air pollution, you're just never going to get sick in the car while wearing this, even if you are a person who did before obtaining it. Okay? And I get sick all the time as a passenger. I do Dramamine, I do ginger, and it is just very frustrating that it impacts my ability to take car trips. And I think a lot of people would find this very useful. A caveat here is that it does only work for motion sickness from being in a car, and I do believe it applies to other motor vehicles such as a Greyhound bus. So you could do commercial cross-country trips like that and be more relaxed about that, but it is not going to apply to anything that is not a motor vehicle very similar to a car or a bus. By that I mean it won't make you less nauseous if you get that way on planes or on a boat or any other form of transportation. And that's also going to apply to things like surfing or sailboating. I once tried to take surfing lessons and I got too seasick just from being out there in the waves, and obviously a scarf would have been a little bit impractical in that situation anyway, but it also in this case would not have worked. Okay, so that's this one. And lastly, we have this black scarf with some hints of blue in it, and it's a sort of plaid pattern. Like the first 3, this one does have fringes at the end in those same colors, and this one is pretty long and easy to fold around itself. And the power associated with this scarf is that everyone will use the first name or nickname that you always wanted them to use. So if your name is Timothy and you always wanted to go by Tim but nobody ever says that, this will make them actually listen to you. Likewise, if they're always shortening your name but you wish they used the full form, this will also apply there. It's really whatever one you most prefer, and I know that can also vary across situations. So if you want all of your coworkers to stop using the nickname they heard about somewhere else that your friends use for you, and you want it to be just your friends, that's going to work in that way as well. And nobody's going to feel like coerced or like this strong outside pressure forcing them to say a certain word. They're just going to think of it naturally and say it like they would anyone else's name. Okay? So that is this. And I'll also note that that can change over time. You know, if you want to have one nickname at one point and then you want it to change, you want people to stop using it, of course it makes sense to just tell them. But if they're not listening to you, then this will make them do so. And I know this is a bit of an odd power for something that you have to wear all the time, since one isn't always wearing a scarf, but one is often being referred to. The nice thing about this one is we have found that it, or similar items with this power, do work in such a way that if you were to wear it for a couple weeks, a lot of the time, most of the time, or even just a week perhaps, it would then get people in the habit of doing this, and the chances are very high that you would not have to wear it constantly in the future. Okay, so it doesn't exactly guarantee it going forward, but there is a pretty high chance that it would work in that way. Okay, let me just recap what each of them looks like and what it does so that you can make your decision. Okay, so the blue one, the power is that you will never have to brush your hair again regardless of your hair type or its length. The rainbow scarf tells you which posts are bots online and also applies to generative AI and its output. The purple and blue scarf with the more complex pattern makes you amazing at singing, but only for karaoke. The black one makes you have no car sickness. And the black plaid one with a bit of blue makes it so that everyone uses your preferred name or nickname. Okay? So, which one of those do you think that you will go with? I know, right? Okay, yeah, great decision. Well, I will just wrap that up for you, and then you can be on your way. Yeah, thank you so much once again for patronizing our business. Bye now.